Om Kayena vacha manasyendrayirva Bhutyatmanava prakriti swabhava Karomi adyat sakalam paresma Narayana samarpayami Narayana samarpayami.
Dear Seeker of Truth, welcome. This is a very auspicious moment. We are going to talk about Bhakti. Bhakti, divine love. So we are going to talk about Bhakti as the essence of all spiritual paths, as the soul of all spiritual paths, and also as a path in itself, Bhakti Yoga. So this is a work made by sage Shandilya, the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras. Not much is known about this Shandilya, only that he was a sage, a God-realized being that gone through many other philosophies and finally got to the nectar-like Bhakti as the soul of it all. So Sage Shandilya had a very intellectual approach also. He was concerned about getting from the different authorities, the different scriptures, the validity, the importance of bhakti as a spiritual path. So he gathered that all and shared it. So may you all find divine love in your hearts. May you all be blessed by this auspiciousness. May you all find God. Moving on, Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, Sutra 43. So before that, so now we have concluded one part, which is Shandilya establishing why is it so important to achieve God realization. And he used a lot of passages from the scriptures to emphasize this, and these passages are God's words. So Sutra 43. The purity of devotion is revealed in the form of signs that are visibly observed in this world. So what he's saying here is that there are some signs that we can grasp if devotion is coming or not, if there is purity in devotion. There are signs that are observable on this world. So this is much more important to understand for oneself than for the others, because you shouldn't mind about the others, as we will see next. So it is difficult even for Shruti to draw any straight line to define the actual feelings of a devotee, for a devotee is very, very preserved in nature and therefore doesn't explicitly reveal his inner feelings. Only at times gives hints, only hints of his feelings by sudden expressions. So these feelings, they can be mimicked also with time. People learn how to do these things and reproduce them. But the real devotee is very reserved in nature. He doesn't reveal his inner feelings, but sometimes glimpses can be had. Sudden expressions, like it is explaining here. Also, one needs to have experienced that kind of love to know what it is. So just by looking at the sudden expression, you need to have it experienced to understand it. It may be by certain signs, shedding of tears, horripilation, emotional talk about God, etc. So these are signs of devotion, and that pure devotion is something that, how do you say this? It floods and elevates at the same time the devotee. So, horripilation of the skin, tears flowing, all these are signs of pure devotion. And I'm not referring to emotionalism, it's different. One comes from below, the other comes from high. It flows downwards. Sutra 44. And these signs are respect, high esteem, delight, forlornness, doubting other objects, praising his greatness, holding the life for his sake, considering everything as his, regarding him as existing in all beings and not resisting his will. So these are some of the signs. The profound respect one has for God. Profound respect. So these days, especially in these modern times, we are seeing people referring to God as like they were referring to someone else, in a very intimate but not intimate way, because intimacy is when you know actually, but if you don't know, so the intimacy is just lack of respect. So if you try to be too intimate with someone you don't know, you'll be disrespectful. So this respect, this profound respect for God. We will go to examples, but high esteem for God also, for all which is divine, for God's stories, for all these things. High esteem. Delight to hear, to be in that wonderful divine presence. Delight in hearing the names and chanting the names of God. Delight. Forlornness, feeling sad, lonely when God doesn't make himself feel present. And even for those who experience that presence, but that forlornness, when by not having direct contact with God, doubting other objects. So doubting all objects that distract you from God, not taking them seriously. Praising His greatness, praising God's greatness. That's also a sign of pure devotion. Holding the life for His sake. Not having any personal desires, personal things to do, just dedicating all life for God's sake. Considering everything as His, considering everything, the body, the mind, the objects that the body possesses, whatever that means, holding nothing as of its own, holding everything as God's. Regarding Him as existing in all beings, so looking at all beings and see God in them. This causes a lot of confusion to everybody, but this is about bringing sacredness to all contacts, seeing God in everyone and taking every interaction as God's teaching and always looking at the other towards His highest, and not resisting His will. This is the last point here, but it's very important, this point. For those who are seeking God, resisting His will is turning your back towards God. And the guidance that the seeker gets, that is God's will. So when you go against guidance, you go against God, and you create distance from God, even more than that, because that's an offense when you are under guidance and you're turning your back. That is very, very offensive. We will go to the offenses, because no, offensive towards God, what does that mean? There's a whole science about that, one that sometimes seekers discard too quickly. But then life reveals these things in a way that seekers don't actually like. But even that is good, because it is still opportunity. So now let's go for the examples that I've collected here. Respect as shown by Arjuna. Arjuna, the righteous and the winner of wealth, in whatever posture he may be, never fails to get up to greet Krishna out of devotion and love for him. So Arjuna was a great warrior, one of the best warriors, one of the most righteous people. Very important, but still, whenever Krishna came, he always, no matter what posture he was, he always got up to greet Krishna, and it was made out of love and respect. High esteem, as that's shown by Ikshvaku. Through fondness of him and for the deer and the lotus and whatever resembled him, the king, this king Ikshvaku, showed high esteem even towards the cloud, which was of the same hue. So even the cloud, when had the same color as Krishna, that king would show high esteem for it. This was the level of the purity of his devotion. Delight as expressed by Vidura. O Lotus-eyed one, the delight that has been welling up in my heart due to your arrival here, how can that be described to you? You are verily the indwelling soul of all embodied beings. These were the words expressed by Vidura. These are the words of delight by seeing Krishna. To feel exceptionally happy by seeing or meeting a devotee of the Lord as much as meeting the Lord himself, as was the case of Vidura. Forlornness, as exhibited by the milkmaids of Vrindavan. It is not possible for us to speak before our parents. What can I say? What can parents do for us? Scorch in the fire of separation. So for them to be separated from Krishna was like being scorched in the fire. And that feeling of forlornness, of loneliness because of that separation was life-consuming. Not to be interested in anything that is not directly related to the Lord, as in the case of Upamanyu. At Shankara's command, I am prepared to become even a worm or a grasshopper, said Upamanyu. But, O Indra, I desire not even the 3 worlds that you may give me. So this was the level, the purity of this devotee's devotion. He didn't care about the objects of the world and the world itself. But if God wanted, he would incarnate again and become a grasshopper or a worm. But he didn't desire nothing of this world and the worlds beyond, just God communion. To always remaining engaged in glorifying the world and talking and discussing about his divinity and grand virtues that are famed in the world and so much praised in the scriptures, to constantly sing the glories and virtues of the Lord God and chant his holy name, to invoke the grace of the Lord and always remember him and his glories. This is from Vishnu Purana. So singing his holy name. We are going to dedicate a part to this because this is very important. The divine name, which is called as mantra, for example, not all, but The name of God, it is God's personification. It is the utmost sacred. But to be constantly engaged in God, dwelling in God, in His stories, chanting His divine names, all of this is a sign of purity. To live for the sake of the Lord and serve Him alone, as was the case of Hanuman, whose life was entirely dedicated in the service of Lord Ram, and with the residents of Vrindavan, whose life revolved around Lord Krishna. Valmiki's Ramayana Srimad Bhagavatam says, Lord Hanuman says, as long as thy purifying story circulates through the world, so long will I reside here, obeying your command. Very beautiful. Or in the case of Narada and others who, though having reached their goal, still continue to live solely for worshipping Him. Only those who know. That is why the Vedas say, ye whom all gods worship, desiring liberation, as also the knowers of Brahman, because he is the same. To be in a firm conviction that whatever things are presently possessed, or whatever is due, actually belongs to the Lord God, as was in the case of King Bali, who had gladly offered his entire empire, as well as his own body to Lord Ram, the dwarf incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu, just telling this quick story, disguised himself to regain the land for Indra and the deities, if I'm not mistaken. And he went in disguise as a dwarf, and he asked for King Bali, that was preparing a huge sacrifice, to grant, to give him a boon. And King Bali agreed, and he asked for three steps of land, his own steps. So King Bali agreed to that. He said, you can ask more because, well, you're so small, and I can grant you so much. But Vishnu in the sky said, no, just 3 steps. So he agreed, and the first step covered the entire earth and the regions beyond, the next the entire heavens, and he said, look, 1 step is still missing. What should I do? And King Bali put his hand down and said, you can put it on my head. This is very beautiful. Okay. To see Lord God in any creature, in everything and everywhere in this world, as was the case of Prahlad, who told his hungry father, the demon Hiranyakshipu, that he sees his beloved Lord everywhere and in every living being. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam. And not to act in any way that is against the wishes of the Lord, as did Bhishma, even when Krishna was on the battlefield and was advancing towards him to kill him. This has been told by Bhishma himself, and he said, come, O Lord of gods, come, O refuge of this world, obeisance to thee, armed with your bow, mace, and sword. Kill me in this vast, wonderful, and fierce battle by forcibly felling me from my chariot. So even when the Lord came to him to take his life, as was his will, he didn't resist. He gave himself, come, proudly succumb at Krishna's hands. So these are some examples that can be remembered as to how bhakti can be practiced and what its signs are.
Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhushka Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva